You're live, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Welcome all members of council and members of our staff that are joining us here at our council meeting. This is our regular council meeting for Monday, April the 11th, 2022. And we have all members of council present as well as members of our staff. And like I said, I'm very happy that you're all here to join us. We're going to start the meeting off as always in reading the land acknowledgement. I would just like to acknowledge as well with the land acknowledgement that at this time, members of council and some of our staff are actually on the lands of the Mississaugas of Port Credit. So we are actually in Toronto, where some of us are attending the OGRA meeting. So our land acknowledgement should include that as well. So I'd like to begin our meeting by recognizing the First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples of Canada as traditional stewards and caretakers of the land. And we acknowledge that Clearview Township is located within the boundaries of Treaty 18, the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, the Titasanati, and the Wendat, and is the home of many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples as part of the intricate nationhood that reaches across Turtle Island. And at this time of reconciliation, we welcome the opportunity to work together towards new understandings and new relationships and ask for guidance in all that we do. I also say this statement voluntarily, and I'm happy to do so. Members of council, as I mentioned, many of our council and staff are actually located in Toronto tonight. And you can see by my background, that's the evening skyline looking at beautiful CN Tower. And it's not quite that dark right this minute. That's a photograph that I took yesterday, but nevertheless, I wanted to show you that that's where we are. And as a result of that, this council meeting, I'm going to go to our first item, which is the closed session. There is no closed session tonight. And so at this time, because many of us are working remotely, as in remotely from the township, I've asked the Deputy Mayor if he would chair the meeting tonight, and the Deputy Mayor has agreed to do so. So Deputy Mayor Burton, at this point, I will pass the agenda over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Worship, and appreciate that. And thank you and all the other members of staff for attending OGRA and representing us in those meetings, which is very important. So I'm going to go to item number 2 on our agenda. Recommendation. Be it resolved that the Council of Township of Clearview hereby approve the agenda dated April 11th, 2022 as presented. Can I have a mover, please? That's Councillor Deneen, Councillor Broderick. Are there any comments or questions? Any changes? No. All in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. I'm going to go to number 3, disclosure of pecuniary interests and general nature thereof. Is anybody in a pecuniary position? And if so, please advise now. If not, and you find yourself through the meeting in that position, please advise us at that time and we'll deal with it. So I see no cards up or no hands up. Public participation. There is no public participation for this week's agenda. So I won't bother reading what it says about the comments because we don't have any. So deputations and presentations, we have none. No public meetings this week. Approval of council minutes. Recommendation, be it resolved that Council of the Township of Clearview hereby approves the minutes of the March 21st, 2022 council meeting as presented. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Broderick and Councillor Walker. Are there any comments, amendments anybody wants to make to the minutes? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Motion carried. I'll just want to comment that I see Councillor McKechnie did not vote on that, and I believe that's because you were not at the last meeting. Is that correct, Councillor McKechnie? Right, thank you for that. Business arising from the minutes, if any? I see none. Communications from the mayor. There's no closed session report. 9.2, Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit Opioid Crisis Advocacy Letter. 9.3, Town of Blue Mountains Transportation Master Plan, Stage 1. 9.4, NVA Board Meeting Highlights, March 2022. 9.5, Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing Memo, More Homes for Everyone Plan. Office of the Fire Marshal, Clearview 2021 EMO Compliance. And I have one additional item that I have to go to my other computer because it was added. And that is 9.7, Stainer and District Kinsman Club funding request for music, market and parket. Are there any items to be pulled from 9.1 down to 9.6? Anybody want to pull any of those items? Councillor McKechnie?
No, that's okay. I was wanted to talk about 9.7, so sorry about that.
Yeah, yes, I'm leaving it as a separate item because there's a motion attached to it. So, I'm going to put forth a motion that I see nothing at all, that we accept items 9.1 to 9.6. No objections, all in favor. Motion passed. I'm going to go to 9.7 now, and I'll read the recommendation. Be it resolved that the Council of Township Clearview hereby support recommendations from the Economic Development Committee regarding the funding request from the Stainer and District Kinsman Club to provide music entertainment at the 2022 Music Market and Parket event. The council approved providing funding for the music portion in the amount of $10,000 from the Economic Development Fund. And also it says, be it resolved that the Council of Township hereby receive communications from the mayor for information. We've already passed that one. So item 9.7, Councillor McKechnie, I believe you wanted to speak on this.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. A couple of questions. First of all, that's a 25% increase over and above what was spent, 2 years ago by the Chamber of Commerce. Secondly, I'm wondering, we gave the Stainer Kinsman Club $4,500 2 years ago for Sausage Fest. Just wondering what's happening with Sausage Fest. Whether because the last I heard, the Stainer Kinsman Club still has that money. Thirdly, what sort of will we be seeing the receipts? I mean, if we give them $10,000, how do we know it's all going to the music, the entertainment? Will we be seeing any sort of receipts or invoices or anything? So those are my questions. Maybe staff or someone from the Economic Development Committee could answer those. Thanks.
Is there, actually, I was going to ask, is Kelly McDonald with us? Kelly, I see you there. Could you tell us about that $4,000, whether it was returned or they still had it, or can you tell me what went on with that?
Through your worship, to members of council, to my best of my knowledge, they still have it. I don't believe it was returned. My understanding at the time was the event was going to be put on in the future. Whether that future is 2022 or not, I have not heard. So I'm not sure, but I can certainly look into it for you.
Okay, it would be nice. That would be nice to know. And as far as, I believe, as far as receipts go, Councillor McKechnie's other question, I'm sure we can request that we see copies of the receipts for the money spent on the music and market parket events. That would be a reasonable request, would it not be?
Through your worship, to members of council, my suggestion be that we be billed directly by the entertainment groups, and that way we actually see and control the receipts ourselves. So they'd have to come in the name of Clearview Township.
Perfect. Okay, yes, your worship.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Actually, I would like to answer one of the questions there from Councillor McKechnie and comment that it is an increase. You're right. There has been significant increase in the price of some of these services that the Kinsman Club are going to be providing. The other thing to keep in mind, Council, is that the partnership with the Chamber of Commerce was based on significant funding from a grant program from the TD Bank that is a foundation program for music funding. The TD Bank did not support that this year. It was a little bit of a surprise, I believe, to the members of the Chamber of Commerce, and they also were not able to put together a volunteer to work on that. And with the diligent work of our staff who work in tourism and events, they were able to work with the Kinsman Club, who again are a significant partner here in Clearview Township, and they offered to step up and help organize the event. Discovering, of course, the cost is a little more than what it had been in the past. The member contacted our staff, and it was recommended that it could go to economic development, given that the purpose and the focus of economic development in Clearview is to support local businesses. So certainly Music Market and Parket is an opportunity to support local businesses in our community, and certainly local musicians as what the music part of the Music Market and Parket. So anyway, that's where this discussion came and why it showed up at the Economic Development Committee recommendation. CIO Ferguson brought forward this report because it's timely, given that obviously the Music Market and Parket is coming, and the securing of the acts and the work that goes into putting that on needs to happen. And the other side of the economic development side, I would like to say, is that this is an opportunity for the Economic Development Action Committee to show that and promote that they're supporting local business in our community. The committee is just getting started, if you've been following along, and we do have some programs that were underway. And I think this is a good opportunity to create a good partnership and show that we're supporting that aspect of our community. So that's where I would ask through the Deputy Mayor that Council support this recommendation. And Mr. Deputy Mayor, I'd be very honored to actually move the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Before we go any further, then can I have a seconder, and then we'll get into further discussions here. So, Councillor Broderick, you're seconding the motion. Thank you for that. Councillor McKechnie, have your questions been answered? Please go ahead.
No, not to my satisfaction, they haven't. I'm still wondering about that $4,500 that the Kinsman Club has for the Sausage Fest. I'm wondering why this was dropped on our lap at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock this afternoon. Very little time to research it for ourselves. And also I'm wondering, certainly a 25% increase over and above what it was 2 years ago for musicians. It seems like a lot to me. I don't mind the $8,000. But lastly, too, my other question too, I don't know if anyone can answer this, but does this open the floodgates for any other event in the township that finds that they need support now, that maybe they were getting sponsorship and their sponsors have pulled out? So are other events going to come to the township and ask us to fund those events? So I'm just a little bit concerned that we're maybe opening the floodgates here. So anyway, but I just don't like the way that this has been presented to us. I don't like the fact that I don't have an answer. I've asked this question before, and no one's given me an answer before on that $4,500 for the Sausage Fest. And also too, I think that we have to make sure that if we do give them the money, that we have to be invoiced directly. So anyway, those are my concerns.
Right. Was there anybody else who wanted to speak? Yes, Councillor Lamers and Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I was reading a little bit farther in our agenda. Amanda Murray's got in her report that she's got 5,000 for music and Market and Parket. So is this 10,000 on top of that 5?
I'm going to go to the CAO because he seems to be a little more involved and has some more information he can share with us. So, John Ferguson, if you would please expel some of your wisdom on us, please.
Thank you, Deputy. First of all, if people realize when the Chamber of Commerce decided they weren't going to do it, they did approach, I think, Bill Roskar, and he said that he would do what he could. He was originally looking at, I think, $3,000 to get this underway and then be able to confirm everything. It's been a bit of a fast track thing put on his table. He has asked that he doesn't need any more than up to $10,000. We weren't sure what discussions were going on with recreation. That report's on the agenda at this point in time. And but the motion will be not to receive any more than 10,000. So this would, if there is 5,000 coming from recreation and it's not overlapping in any way, then the 10,000 will not be exceeded. Okay, so just to rest assured, the municipality is not intending to give any more than $10,000. As it relates to the other matter, it sounds like that sausage things may have been put on hold due to COVID, and they've been sitting on it, and we just haven't gone back. I wasn't aware of this. It hadn't come up since I've been here, this actual question, but probably before I was here. And I think probably they intend to put it on in the future, but we just haven't, circled back and talked to them about that. We can do that, but that is basically a separate issue, but equally important. So I'm glad you raised it. We'll find out what exactly their plans are in that regard to get that underway, but it would be a separate project. So overall, we don't intend on advancing any more than $10,000 for music, park it and market. And we'll double check with recreation on that process. They've been maybe trying to find somebody within their budget to help this out. And there's just two separate reports. The recreation staff did not attend the economic development meeting. That's maybe why it was dropped. Anyway, it won't be any more than 10 regardless.
Thank you. And could I call on Miss Amanda Murray? I see she's present here. Could you give us a little bit of advice on the 5,000 that's in your budget? Is that for the bands, or is that for the actual setup and operating of the market part? Could you advise that? Are you there, Amanda? She may not be there. Oh, there she is.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor Burton. Good evening, Council. So my report is forthcoming tonight, but the $5,000 that's allocated in the Parks and Rec and Culture budget is separate from sponsoring the music portion of Music Market Park It. So just to clarify, that $5,000 is typically used for things like the special occasions permit for licensing, any of the stage and signage rentals, payment for Farmers Market Ontario fees that are required every year, hosting theme nights, having our own entertainment within the market. So that budget, that 5,000, has been pretty standard for the last 5-6 years that I've been involved with the market. So the request for the $10,000 for entertainment would be in addition to the existing recreation programming budget.
Thank you. Councillor Walker, I believe you had your card up.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just some clarification. The $10,000 is strictly for the music entertainment at the market. Is that what that 10,000 is strictly for?
I can say that that's our understanding from the Economic Development Committee. I think our CEO is nodding his head, confirming that, but it's strictly for the music portion.
Okay, so then if it's strictly for the music and we are receiving the receipts for payment, then there is no need to give that money to the Kinsman Club if we are going to end up paying the receipts through the township. The Kinsman Club have obviously organized the groups that are coming. And other years, Councillor McKechnie, there were sponsors. I know different groups would sponsor a night. Obviously, that's not going to happen because I've heard nobody mention the word sponsor. The bank has pulled out, but there are also other sponsors. Some businesses, some other service clubs would sponsor an evening. So I guess that's why some of that funding is increased, because those sponsors obviously have not been asked to participate this year. So to me, if we are paying the invoices, then there's no need to transfer that money. It should be earmarked as $10,000 for music in the park, but then the invoices will be dealt with, as Kelly has said, through ourselves. So I see no need for that money to be transferred over, but earmarked and kept in our own account. The other thing is, obviously, then there would be cancellation clauses invoked, so that if somebody's making a call on weather, because if you make a certain call other years, if you left it too late, you had to pay the groups anyways. So I'm assuming that all that will be dealt with, whereas a certain time frame in the day, when you sign these groups, that if the cancellation has happened before a certain date, a timeline, that the groups will not have to be paid. But that all has to be worked out somewhere. But I feel that the money should be left in our account and then invoiced and paid that way. Thank you.
If I could go to Madam Clerk for a minute. Yes, there, Madam Clerk. So when I'm reading the recommendation, it says committee regarding funding requests for the Stayner District Kinsmen to provide music and entertainment. So it's just asking us to provide the funding. We don't have to send the money to the Kinsmen Club. It's just asking us to provide the funding for it. Is that correct, Madam Clerk? So all we're going to say is we're going to approve if we approve the funding, but all the invoices will come to us and get paid by us. They just need to know that it's going to be covered. Is that correct?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Burton. Councillor Walker brought up some good points in his discussion just briefly there. I would suggest that amendment be made to the motion, not a friendly amendment, but an actual amendment. I've been kind of typing away. My suggestion would be the council replace the word approve with the word sponsor, and that the following be sentence added to the motion, that the township be directly billed for the music talent and invoices be paid by the municipality.
Right. Yes, Terry Vachon, please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Burton. I know it's been suggested by our treasurer regarding the receipts being sent to the town, and I don't think it's a good idea personally. I think we should be able to trust the Kinsmen Club that if they say that they went out and got their quotes, that they're going to provide receipts and whatnot. It's not just as simple as making a check. When you're responsible for entertainment, there's a lot of work that's done behind the scenes. There's contracts work that has to be done. There's insurance. There's liability. There's all kinds of responsibilities that a group takes on. I feel that if we take on the responsibility of paying these bills, then we're going to take on the responsibility of doing the whole thing. Kinsmen Club are going to say, well, you know what? Why don't you guys just do it? And that's our problem, is that it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. And we're very fortunate to have a Kinsmen Club that's stepping up to take on this work on our behalf. So I recommend, Deputy Mayor Burton, that the funds be provided to the Kinsmen Club. They're responsible. They pay the bills. They manage the whole event part of it. They provide copies of the receipts that they've paid back to the municipality to make sure that it's been done correctly. But I want to professionally suggest that I don't think that's a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to make a few comments before I ask if there's any other comments out there. I think we got to deal with some realities here. Is that this was the Chamber of Commerce that was doing this, and the Chamber of Commerce has backed out from doing it for whatever reason, and I'm sure they had good reasons. So it meant that if the Kinsmen didn't pick it up, it wasn't going to happen. And it is a signature event in our community. And I agree with what Terry Vachon, our Director of Recreation, has said. Certainly the Kinsmen Club have been, a great honorable club, have made great donations and do many things for our community. I think this is not for the Kinsmen Club. This money is for the community. So this signature community event can happen. As far as the sausage thing, that's a separate event that the Kinsmen still plan to put on, and had told us they had still planned to put that on in the last 2 years. But this is a completely separate event. And personally, I rethinking about having to send the bills direct to the township. I think it's better. I'm going to follow Terry's advice, and I think we should just, of course we want receipts, and we want to see a report on the expenditures. But I think if we just forward the money to the Kinsmen, I think that's the way to go. I believe our clerk wants to speak. She's going to overrule me, I can tell.
No, I'm not. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Burton. If council is amenable to that and the questions posed by Terry, you can add a sentence at the end of the motion, the pre-existing recommendation, just stating that copies of the invoices be forwarded to the township at the completion of the event. So at the end of the market season. If staff would like to just review the actual cost for 2022, moving forward, going into 2023 to know kind of costing to sponsor that type of event.
Thank you, Clerk. And John Ferguson first, and then Councillor McKechnie.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I want to say, when these circumstances arise, it is understandable confusion can occur. This was fast-tracked mainly because they need to get these agreements in place with the musicians. And so Bill Roskar at the Economic Development meeting asked if the Economic Development Committee would support him to try to move this along as quickly as possible. It came in at the last minute for council, and I apologize for the short notice. We're simply trying to respond to the request from the Kinsman Club to try to get this approved as soon as possible so they can get things booked. That's really the reason behind that aspect of it. But also not to lose sight that this is actually a recommendation from the Economic Development Committee, which is the process that they have to follow when they request funds from council. So they want to endorse this. They see this as actually something supporting the uptown business. And to a certain extent, I think some of the uptown businesses have had a difficult past couple of years. And I think some might have sponsored this, but just don't have the extra money at this time. But I think they do see the value in drawing citizens back to the uptown area in Stayner, and the opportunity for them to participate in the local businesses on her front street. So that's really the rationale behind it. Normally, this would have been submitted well in advance of this meeting, but the Economic Development meeting was last week. And then I got a call late in the week by Bill saying he needs to know if we can get an answer as soon as possible. And he apologized, but he said he's under a time crunch, and that's why it's in on short notice. So this is us helping volunteers trying to get this coordinated. Apologize for any confusion that it may create, but it's all an altruistic and good for the community. And that's really why it's been put forward. So I hope that helps council in making their decision.
Thank you. Councillor McKechnie.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So I would like to propose an amendment. Something that the clerk said there just sort of tweaked me on this. She said about how this gives us an idea at the end of 2022 going into 2023. And I'm thinking, whoa, this sounds like we're going to be sponsoring this, funding this, for years going forward. So I would like to make an amendment. First of all, I think 25% increase over and above what it was 2 years ago is too much. I'd like to make an amendment and change that $10,000 to $8,500. I think that's reasonable. And secondly, somewhere in there, I'd like to put in that on a one-time basis only, so that next year, if the Kinsman Club want to come back to us next year and have us funded, fine, we can consider it then. But I don't want to see us this be an ongoing commitment on the township to fund this. We're already putting $5,000 a year into the Stayner Market and Parket, but this money, I'd like to see that we just do it for this year. If we're going to do it another year, they need to come back to us. And it still concerns me how loosely this has been presented to us, and it also concerns me, that now other groups will be coming to us for funding. So those are my two amendments, 8,500 and on a one-time basis only. Thank you.
Councillor McKechnie, would you object if we did them as two separate amendments? Instead of linking them together, can we do them as two separate amendments, please? First, that is one time only, then the amendment to drop it down to 8,500.
Sure, that's fine. That's fine. Yep.
Okay, Madam Clerk, if you could read the first amendment to us, and then we'll take a vote on the first amendment, and we'll take a vote on the second amendment, and then we'll call for the vote.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Burton. Councillor McKechnie needs to have a seconder. So his first amendment could be that the funding amount be changed from $10,000 to $8,500. So he needs a seconder for that amendment.
Do we have a seconder for that amendment? Councillor Walker. Okay, we have a seconder for that amendment. I'm going to call the vote on that amendment. Oh, hang on, Councillor Patterson wishes to speak. You're muted, Tom.
Seemed like I was invisible too. I've been waving my flag here.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did. Yeah.
It's okay. So are we talking about an upset level? or of the 8 or the 10, or are we talking about an amount? Because the actual amendment that we're looking at that was written says to in the amount of $10,000. And the amendment that's been stated is 8,000 or 8,500. I heard two numbers.
I believe it was 8,500 and it's
8,500.
It's
Okay,
up
is the
to
8,500 an upset level or the actual amount?
my understanding is at the upset level of 8,500. Is that correct, Councillor McKechnie? Yes,
And that
he is
Up
confirming.
to 8,500, yes.
Yeah, up to
Okay.
80.
Up to 8,500.
And I heard words verbal saying the same thing about 10, so that's the same thing for the 10.
Not to exceed 10,000.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So let's deal with this amendment first, and then, so it's the upset of up to $8,500 is the amendment, and I see the mayor waving a piece of paper there, so go
Thank you,
ahead.
Barry. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'd like to just point out, certainly the Kinsman Club, you said some very positive things at the Kinsman Club. Terry Vachon said some, and I want to support those two recommendations, those two comments. But I think that by Councillor McKechnie's arbitrarily just deciding that $8,500 is what the amount that the Kinsmen are requiring is the decision that he's putting forward. I think that that's actually speaking out of turn in the fact that we don't know what it is that they're looking for. They've made the ask for $10,000. They know that they want to work with the Economic Development Committee. There's going to be a support and sponsorship availability there for us as a committee and as a town to support it. And I think that the changing the value at this point would actually be handcuffing them, given that they've come forward with their ask, to reach that $10,000 range. So I think it's wrong for us to frankly be negotiating in an open session like this for this type of funding that's going to be granted to a program that was already pointed out that this is a signature event. So I would ask council to not support this amendment that I think that the volunteer committee and the volunteers of Kinsman have asked for $10,000. They've gone through the recommendation of the Economic Development Committee, which is the procedure to follow. And I think that that's what we should be supporting as a council. There's many checks and balances in this procedure to make sure that the correct amount is spent and the correct amount is spent, properly. And so certainly through our treasury and through our CAO and through our the staff at the Recreation Department who will be working with these volunteers will be able to monitor this all the way through. And I would support the original recommendation. I believe it was a friendly in there to ask for a report at the end of this, at the end of the season, so we can see what all the receipts are. So that's my comment, Deputy Mayor, and thank you very much, Council.
Thank you. And before we vote on the amendment, I might want to remind everybody that this money is coming out of the Economic Development Reserve. It's coming out of the reserve. So the money is sitting there, and the money, and it's the Economic Development Committee that is recommending this expenditure, and it is coming out of their reserve. So I believe we have an amendment on the floor to change the limits to an up limit of 8,500. There's been a mover, there's been a seconder. I'm going to call the vote. All in favor of the amendments? All those opposed to the amendment? That motion is failed. It does not carry. Now to the second amendment. Madam Clerk, there was a second amendment. We broke it down into two separate amendments.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor Burton. So Councillor McKechnie moved that the motion to council be amended to include that this is a one-time funding cost. We still need a seconder for this amendment.
Have we got a seconder for that motion that it's a one-time funding cost for this year, which I think was what we anticipated, but if we got a mover for that, please.
I'll move this just to get it on the floor. I have a question.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Patterson. So we have a mover, we have a seconder to make the amendment that it's a one-time only. Can we just say it's for the 2022 season rather than one time only, because that means that we can't do it future. So I would that acceptable to you, Councillor McKechnie, that we said for the 2022 season? Is that amendment okay to you, Councillor McKechnie?
No, I think I'd like to keep it as one time only. If someone wants to come back and talk to us next year, then they can, but you know, I don't see anything wrong with my amendment, so.
Okay, I'm going to ask Councillor Patterson, you had a comment to make, and then I'm going to go to the clerk.
Yeah, thank you. It goes to the question I had for the 10 when it first came. And my apologies if I have missed the actual routine. Unlike the community grants, there's an application process, and others that might deserve some treatment and support as well would have an opportunity to put their applications in. And I understand the Economic Development Committee is in a initial stage of ramping up their services, and so I appreciate what they're doing here. Is there a formal application process? And I'll tell you why, just to verify Councilor McKechnie's earlier concern. I had a discussion today, informal discussion with the BIA in Creemore, and they were aware that the Economic Development Committee was providing some funding to this opportunity tonight. And they wondered how they might apply if they felt they needed to. Didn't even know if they qualified. So question is, what is the procedure for attracting, for volunteer groups to attract some support funding from the Economic Development Committee?
So, Your Worship, would you like me to answer that, or would you like to answer that?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I will take a stab at it. I think in this instance, you know, we need to recognize that the work of the Economic Development Action Committee is there to serve the greater needs of Killibree Township when it comes to small business and attracting business and investing in all those opportunities. Given that, as stated earlier, the township has a very solid partnership with the organization known as the Kinsman Club. We have other organizations in our town that we're partners with as well. And also knowing that our staff were advised that the Chamber of Commerce were backing out, they went on a sort of a mission of sending off some emails. I know that Amanda Murray's reached out to organizations like the Great Northern Exhibition and other organizations too, looking to see if anyone was interested in assisting with the Music Market and Parket. So this is where this came from. And the Kinsman Club did step forward and offer to assist. They already are a partner at Music Market and Parket, if you recall. They operate a little booth there. So they stepped forward and they asked how to do this. I believe that Bill looked at it because he is a member of the Economic Development Action Committee. He recognized that it's a supporting local business and asked if it was something that we could do in there. Our committee discussed it. You can go back and watch the video, Council, if you want to have a look at it. We did discuss it, and there were some good questions by the members, and the committee did support it. So to answer your question, Councillor Patterson, I don't think there is a procedure. I think what we're dealing with here is the fact that the Music Market and Parket is a significant signature event and has proven itself as a huge success, and further has proven that the community really wants this event to come back, given that we're all sort of getting over COVID. And it's so unfortunate that the Chamber of Commerce lost their sponsorship of the event. And you know, we're trying here to rectify that. We're trying to work with the partners that we have, and we're trying to, you know, leverage the opportunities that are available through the tax dollars that are provided to the Economic Development Action Committee, as we've been putting money aside for years, by the way. And so Deputy Mayor Burton's comment about the reserve is very accurate. There is a very good reserve in the EDC fund. And I don't have it off the top of my head, but I imagine if we check with Kelly, she might be able to pull that number. So Tom, Councillor Patterson, I don't really think there is a procedure. I think what's happened is this is a straight up ask, and it's outside of the community grant program. And to be honest, as both the mayor and as the chair of the Economic Development Committee, I honestly saw it as an opportunity for us to promote the work of the Economic Development Committee and show it as a sponsorship, and to let our local businesses know that the EDC is here, and we'll be doing more programs to help local businesses in this community. Hopefully that's answered your question, Tom. Sorry, I'm being a little long-winded.
Okay, thank you, Your Worship. And actually, I'm going to add something to that, Your Worship, as I also sit on the.
Could I respond to?
Well, I just want to make my comment and then I'll let you respond, Councillor.
Yeah, okay.
So the comment I wanted to make is any organization is welcome to come to the Economic Development Committee and request funding or for whatever it is, whether it's you know, one of our community events, whether it's one of our committees, whether it's private individuals who want to put an event on. Any organization can come to the Economic Development Committee and request some funding or some support. And I think it's that simple. But go ahead, Councillor Patterson.
Yeah, thank you. No, I appreciate the mayor's comments and I support them. My question wasn't a gotcha. It was simply to reflect the fact that there would be people who wonder what the procedure is. And that's a question for later on. It doesn't affect the decision we're making tonight. I think this sounds like the right thing to do. It's supported by a lot of experience based in this community and support. The words of our CAO April 6th still resonate in my head about the volunteer support in our community. So it's, you know, it's just a question that we should all be prepared for when people with similar programs and needs might ask. And if they're listening to this conversation, they know that just what the deputy mayor just said, if they have a need, they can ask. And that's something for the Economic Development Committee to consider. Do they want a process or how they handle that's within their mandate. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Councillor. So I'm going to go back to our clerk because I believe we have an amendment on the floor. And yes, Your Worship, did you want to can I get the amendment read and then you can comment on the amendment if that's okay, Your Worship? Okay, yeah. So could you please read the amendment, Madam Clerk? This is the second amendment. And then I'll let anybody else who wants to comment on the amendment only. Yes, go ahead, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Burton. Through you to the rest of council. So the amendment that's on the floor is it's moved by Councillor McKechnie, seconded by Councillor Patterson, that the motion before council be amended to include that this is a one-time funding cost.
Yes, Your Worship.
Thanks,
your measures. Yeah,
that's okay. That's who I am.
Sorry,
Sorry.
Jack.
How are you doing on
Your
the chair?
Worship, go ahead.
How are you doing on the chair there, Barry? You okay?
It's fine. It's fine.
Okay, good. Deputy Mayor, I wanted to just comment actually on the amendment. To be quite honest, I don't dispute the amendment. I don't dispute it in any way. I think that the words of the amendment are clear. I mean, it's a one-time funding. I also suggest, as I said in my earlier comment, that this is, you know, very unfortunate because the genuine sponsorship that has brought us Music Market and Park all these years dropped out unannounced, and that caused a cascading effect with the chamber. They weren't prepared to draw upon their funds, which honestly they have very limited funds, to do that event without the sponsorship that they had from TV. So you know, it's just that's how it went down. So I don't dispute the fact that this is one time. But I would suggest through the CAO's office, it's always a good time to point to the CAO. I would suggest that through the CAO's office, that after this season's done, and perhaps through this season, that we ask the Recreation Tourism team to keep their ear open and look for alternatives for the 2023 season of Music Market and Parket. You know, and who knows? We don't know what it's going to look like. We don't know what successes or failures may come from this season. And to Councillor Walker's comment, it might rain, and it does rain on Thursdays, so who knows? So you know, we're doing what we can here to support our community, and I think that I have no problem with the amendment, and in fact, I'll probably support it because I think it's correct. It is only one time at this time.
Okay, thank you. So I've got a question for the clerk, and then we'll go and have a vote on the amendment. Madam Clerk, what are the implications by using the words one time only? If in future years, another organization or any organization comes to us and wants to get sponsorship for this exact event, does that mean we have to rescind this bylaw because it says one time only? Does that mean we have to rescind the bylaw to do that? Or, and that's why I made the suggestion of it should say for the 2022 season. But could you please advise what the implications are?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Burton. I don't know if I can answer that question fully. I think my comments that Councillor McKechnie was picking up on for the 2023 season, it was by no means a state that the township was in a position to support it again for another year. It was just going to give us an actual kind of costing because this event hasn't gone on for a couple years to know what the prices are moving forward. The intent of the motion always was previous to this amendment for the 2022 season. That's why we include in there the 2022 music market and park it. There is no bylaw to rescind because this isn't under bylaw. I personally don't see it stopping for a funding or sponsor request coming for the 2023 season because we've outlined in this motion that it's 2022. However, if there is a request in 2023, it's up to that council whether they would like to support that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so there's can you keep it short, Councillor Patterson? We've been a long time on this subject, and I would like to get us voting on the amendment.
So I'd like a clarification because intent is behind all of our motions. So Councillor, if I may ask a question to Councillor McKechnie, my understanding from the words, correct me if I'm wrong, was you don't want to fund them again. This is not the way to fund it. I'm making your words a little bit more direct than you said it. And this is not just, well, if they want to come back next year, then they can come back. I see it, if that's the case, then I see it as an unnecessary amendment. Because as the clerk just said, basically, that this motion implies that it's for 2022. So I'm a little reluctant to vote on it based on the way it was presented. That's what I'm asking. Okay,
Madam Clerk.
The question was to Councillor McKechnie, if I may just get, because he was the mover of the motion.
Yeah, at first I want to, the clerk has something to say, and then Councillor McKechnie can respond if he wishes to. Yes.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Burton. I'll keep it brief. Through you to the rest of council, I'm just referencing that the first part of the recommendation references the 2022 music market and park. Additionally, there's nothing to stop any group from coming into a next year or a next term of council and asking for sponsorship for anything, whether that council chooses to approve that sponsorship, that's up to the council members at that time.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Councillor McKechnie. Final word, because then I'm calling the vote after this. This is a final word. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. So basically, as I said, my concerns were that this has been pretty loosely presented to us, and we don't seem to have a lot of control over the funds that we've given out previously. What I'm concerned about is I don't think there should be an expectation by the Kinsman Club or any other club that we continue this funding next year. And secondly, I'm concerned that other clubs may come to us and want us to fund their events, because now we've set a precedent here. So those are my concerns. So that's why I put the amendment forward as such that this be on a one-time basis only. If next year, there is no other sponsor to step up to the plate, and the Kinsman Club or the Lions Club or someone wants to approach us and ask us for money again, well, then that's fine. They can do that. Hopefully they would do it further in advance than 2 o'clock in the afternoon of the meeting of our council meeting. Hopefully they would do it further in advance than that. But anyway, so that was the reason why I just want to make sure that it's one time only. We're not committing anyone to next year. So that was all.
Okay, Madam Clerk, can you read the final amendment, please? And then I'm going to call the vote.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Burton. So the amendment is moved by Councillor McKechnie, seconded by Councillor Patterson, that the motion before council be amended to include that this is a one-time funding cost.
Okay, all in favor? of the amendment? 1, 2, 3, and does that mean you're in favor, Mr. Measures? Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, those opposed to the amendment? That amendment fails. Thank you. Now back to the original motion. Read it one more time, would you please, Madam Clerk? And there'll be no more discussion or just reading it. We're going to vote on it. Please.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Burton. I just want to ask council, and through you to the rest of council, if there is a friendly amendment that the Kinsmen provide copies of the invoices at the completion of the event.
I'll take a straw vote. Is everybody in favor of that without going through an amendment? It's a friendly amendment. Everybody good? Straw vote? Yes, I think so. Connie?
Okay.
I just want to assure council that if we give money out in grants such as this, that they do present a full report at the end of the event. When we did the Art Fest, we had to present a full report, and it was broken down in how we spent it, what we spent it on, and we even had the numbers of the people that attended. So I think the Kinsmen aren't just going to take the 10,000, give us music and walk away. They are going to give us a report because the township asked for it. I mean, they did it for the Art Fest. I'm sure they'll do it for this. So
thank you, Councillor. So I did a straw vote on the friendly amendment. I gathered everybody. Can everybody just do a thumbs up if you're in favor of the friendly amendment, please? Yes, it looks like that's a go. Okay, so we're going to add that friendly amendment, Madam Clerk. Do you want to just read that last part where the amendment is, please?
Sure. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Burton. And just for clarification, this has been moved by Mayor Measures and seconded by Councillor Broderick. So the addition to the recommendation is that the township be provided with copies of the invoices at the completion of the event.
Thank you. All in favor? Any opposed? Sorry, we're calling the vote, Councillor McKechnie. Can you do that again, please? All in favor, hold your cards up. Because I'm trying to count here. Any opposed? Nope. Okay, motion carried. Thank you. We're going to go on to, guess what? County reports and information. The county report I have is to say that our mayor and other members of county are at the sorry, yes, Madam Clerk. Am I jumping ahead?
My apologies, Deputy Mayor Burton. I meant to catch you after that recommendation went through. So the one for the general recommendation for just receiving for information, you did take a vote, but there was no mover and a seconder. So if we could just bring that one back to the floor and get a mover and a seconder and a vote.
Okay, I'm sorry, for which one? For the?
Just to receive communications from the mayor for information.
Oh, okay, yes. Could I have a mover and seconder, please? And that's Lamers and Walker. Okay, all in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. Okay. Again, the county reports is our mayor and his worship and other members of county council are attending the OGRA meeting, and that's what's going on. And county has made an announcement that they are doing their review. I always forget these terms, but they're help me here, Doug. The
Regional Government Review.
Regional
RGR.
Government Review. Thank you.
RGR, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. So and that's all I have for council reports. So I'm going to start now going with the council reports, and we're going to start off with Councillor Leishman.
okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Well, not much. I attended the flag raising for the autism on I forget when it was, but it was last week, and it was very cold, but it was okay. It didn't rain, thank God. I attended a Sunnydale meeting, excuse me, and we did some event planning, which might be on hold now that we're talking about putting a shovel in the ground. And also Yeah, the pancake breakfast was supposed to happen this year, but they've decided to wait. So I think we'll see not too many events this year at Sunnydale, but we're hoping that next year is going to be a better year because we'll have accessibility in our hall. And I attended the small hall discussion, and we're closer to shovels in the ground. Thank gosh. I should say God, but I won't. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Lamers, you're next.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, it was a slow week. I just had the special council meeting on April 6th, and we got Brentwood and evening hall board meetings next week. That's it.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Walker, you're up.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. First meeting we had, April 6th, was the Youth Committee. And I'd like to thank the mayor for joining in and helping us meet quorum for that meeting. Basically, an update is they have no capacity limit now. They reported that they had a really good weekend at the youth, at the 3-on-3 tournament. They had the pancake breakfast, and they also operated the canteen or the booth for that 3-on-3 tournament, and did extremely well. I would also at this point like to congratulate Terry, staff, and all those involved in that very successful 3-on-3 tournament. Nothing but positive feedback from parents, grandparents, and participants in that tournament. So thank you, Terry and staff, and all those others that were volunteered. Job well done, and looking forward to next year. The other thing I want is just to quickly highlight an email we got tonight, Cybernome. Just a little update on the Cybernome. They returned from North Bay, and they have and York, and then with that they have awarded the imagery award in both locations, which puts them about 25th in the province. This weekend they are going to be in the provincials at Mississauga in the Paramount Center. Unfortunately, it's closed to the public. So there's only a very limited people that are connected to the participating teams can get there. So I'm hoping that there will be a link. And if somebody's listening that has that opportunity to feed us that link to go on and watch the proceedings, it's very enjoyable to watch. And I wish them all the best at the provincials. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Deneen, do you have a report?
A quick one, thanks, Deputy Mayor. We're well into our scrap bin, our scrap metal drive. We're on our second bin. I heard today that it's pretty much full. We've rehomed 4 bicycles, a scooter, and a tricycle that I know of. Saturday, April 23rd at the Ottawa Hall from 2 to 8, we're doing our craft beer, wine, and cider event. And the sign out front, I've got it out on the front sign now. So feel free to stop by and sample some of our local craft beer and wine and cider. I just wanted to say congratulations to some of our younger members in our community as well. Yesterday, the under 13 OMHA championship was won by them in Windsor, and congratulations to the kids. So thank you very much. That's it for me.
Councillor Patterson.
Thank you. 3 things. Receiving some feedback from the public on the small halls. There's some confusion. I've been able to on several of the phone calls, provide some feedback in terms of what we did decide to do in terms of funding, in line with the decisions we made on the 6th. I'm preparing, I may have mentioned this in the past, but this is a report that I'm preparing with regards to parking, patios, and pedestrians in Creemore. in conjunction, doing some work with the Dan Pro, and we're bringing a report to council to see if we can manage the infrastructure that we have there in the village, and also looking forward to the traffic calming policy trials that we committed to the residents group on Caroline Street West, start in April or early May, to see if some of the some effect can be made on the concerns they have on that portion of the street. That's my report.
Councillor Broderick, you're up.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. On April the 1st, I attended the autism awareness flag raising with Councillor Leishman and the mayor and others. On the 2nd, the 3-on-3 hockey tournament, which I have to say was awesome. The folks there really seemed to enjoy themselves. On the 4th, attended a Creemore BIA planning session. On the 6th, the Clearview Council special meeting on the small halls AODA renovations. On the 7th, attended the Be a Donor Green Shirt Day flag raising. And on the 10th, the opening of the OGRA, Ontario Good Roads Association conference in person. It's been a long 2 years, but I think we're finally getting there at the Royal York Hotel, which we're still at. On the 11th, continued participation in the OGRA conference and participated in the Clearview delegation to Minister Cho with Mayor Measure, CAO John Ferguson, and Councillor Phyllis Deneen. And I wanted to say, up and coming, should put this on your calendars. May the 14th is going to be the official grand opening of the Clearview Library Stainer branch. And that's it for me. Thank you.
Councillor McKechnie.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I have nothing to report today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. And last but not least, His Worship. Do you have anything you'd like to report on?
Well, thank you, Deputy Mayor. It's great to hear everyone's report here tonight. I'll give you a brief report. It's going to be, really clear. Let's go, Siskins. The Siskins are doing amazing. Like, well done, team. They're really doing great. And the support that the community is offering them, it's just tremendous. And there's a lot of talk about the Siskins, and they have a great opportunity to go on to the Schmaltz Cup here. And so we're cheering for them, and we really want people to know that the Siskins are in Clearview Township. They're doing a great job. Thank you, Councillor, for mentioning the OMHA championships. I know our Canucks were there, as well as other teams from the region, and it was great. Super, super good job. I do want to acknowledge the flag raising for Green Shirt Day. I very much appreciate the participation from members of our staff, and Councillor Broderick was there. That was great. But I do want to point out there was some great members from our community that participated in that too, Deputy Mayor. There was members of the Creemore Coyotes hockey team were there. That was really great. We had members from Stainer Collegiate Institute, the youth outreach program that was there. The youth were there. They were really keen to talk about organ donation and why it's important. And we also had a gentleman there who's a 2-time liver recipient, who's well known in our community, Mr. Mark Rattan. He was there, and it was quite nice to see him again. So anyway, thank you all for participating and helping with that. Council, on your behalf, I was honored to attend Vimy Ridge Day celebrations at Base Borden. And I attended that with other mayors and dignitaries and members of our legions from across Simcoe County. So that was a wonderful event on Saturday morning, and I appreciated doing that. On Saturday mid-morning, I arrived back in Stainer, and frankly, quite in a moment of solitude, I went to the park at Station Park And I put up the Ukraine flag. It's flying today in Stayner. And I would hope that citizens of Clearview know that we're all in support of Ukraine. And, hashtag stand with Ukraine is a very powerful thing. And we are very much hopeful that war in Europe will come to an end. So that's my report from here. I will speak briefly about the OGRA conference. Yes, I did have an opportunity to join some of the members here with Minister Cho. Again, we had a conversation about the AODA, legislation, and I also participated with the mayor and deputy mayor from Grey Highlands, as well as representatives from Collingwood, and we talked to the parliamentary assistant to the Ministry of Transportation about regional transportation issues. So that was one meeting, and we have yet another meeting coming up on Wednesday with other members of Ministry of Infrastructure to have some conversations with them. But the conference is quite good. Certainly, it was nice to hear from the Ministry of Transportation, Caroline Mulrooney, this morning, as well as Minister Monty McNaughton spoke about training opportunities that'll be available for staff who work in the public works sector. There's some online training availability, so that's a support from the province being offered. Overall, there's a real positive sense from this conference about roads in general across Ontario. They like to joke about this event, calling it the Bad Roads Conference. I think there's a lot of positiveness here talking about the Good Roads Conference. So all the best. Thank you. Back to you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I just want to add something about the Siskins. I always have a bet going on every year with the mayor of Alliston. And this will be, I think, the third year he's going to have to wear the Siskin shirt at one of his meetings. So I have one sitting here ready for him, and I will get it down to him. And it would be great if I did it, if he had to wear it at a county meeting. So perhaps the next county meeting, I'll get him to wear our Siskin sweater. Thank you for that. So I think that covers everybody, and we've had all our reports from the word reports. So I'm going to go with item number 12. And CS 014 2022 Committee of Adjustment March report recommendation. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive report CS 014 2022 Committee COA March report dated April 11th, 2022 for information. Can I have a mover, please? Lamers and Broderick. Any comments? Questions? All in favor? Motion carried. I'm going to go to Parks and Culture and Recreation. PCR 005 2022 signature events 2022. Be it resolved that the Council of Township of Clearview hereby receive report PCR 005-2022 signature events dated April 11th, 2022 for information. Can I have a mover, please? I'm going to go for Councillor Leishman and Councillor Walker. Comments or questions? No, we got Amanda Murray standing by, ready to answer your questions. Going once, going twice. I'm going to call for the Councillor McKechnie. Councillor McKechnie.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So these signature events, and when you go to the report, it gives the amount of money that we're supporting them with. Just wondering, where is it? The Cider and Sausage Festival on July the 16th. What event is that? Amanda, we're giving
Yes.
1,500.
Thank you very much. And through you, Deputy Mayor Burton. So the Cider and Sausage Festival, that is in fact the Stayner Kinsman event that was discussed earlier, and it was originally to happen in July of 2020. The $1,500 that's allocated for this year is in addition to the original amount from 2020, but it's part of our partnership contribution in support of Experience Simcoe County. So the grant funding that the county provided. So in addition to the grant funds from the county, Clearview Township is providing $1,500 to directly hire the stage. Nowadays, you need to have a stage that meets engineering standards. So our department offsets that requirement by sponsoring the stage rental. So in this case, it's the Cider and Sausage Festival. And as well, you will see the same amount, which is $1,500 for the Kinsman Duck Races. It's allocated for the same purpose, which is renting a professionally engineered stage. Does that answer your question, Councillor McKechnie, or is there additional?
Sure, yeah, so that's over and above the 4,500 that we've already given them, and plus they're getting a grant from the county, is that right? Yeah.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are there any other comments or questions? Councillor Patterson.
Amanda, if I could put a question to Amanda. I know that that you work closely with all our volunteer groups, and they're one of the things they probably don't do as well and rely on some of your support is getting funding, grant applications and that sort of thing. Have you noticed, and it may be getting later and later in the year for some of these groups now, but your sense, what's happening on the grant front? The province or other organizations offering monies to make the transition from the pandemic to the new summer, or is it the grant season about the same? Like, what's your call on this?
So through you, Deputy Mayor Burton, to Councillor Patterson, that's an excellent question. My professional opinion is this year, and similar to last year, we've had more opportunities for grant funding than, quite honestly, I've seen in at least the last 10 to 15 years, not since the previous recession back in 2008. So I would say that I have worked very closely with some of our organizations to make sure that they've put in applications for funding. Unfortunately, because there's more funding available, there seems to be a greater competition or a higher level of competitiveness in getting that actual funds back into the bank account. So as a result, some groups that I'm aware of, although they put in excellent applications and I had a chance to review them, they just were not successful. So we are out of the granting season though. I mean, for the most part, provincial grants, the county grants, those were due well before April and May, like they would have been due back in January, February, March. So I know a few groups were quite successful and I congratulate their efforts. I'm always open though, Councillor Patterson, to working with our volunteer groups to make sure that they're sourcing as many applications as possible. It is a bit of a give and take, but definitely right now there's more grant funding that's been available in the last year and a half because of the pandemic than I'd seen previously. So I think you're going to see a lot more community events happen because of grant funding. It's just a matter of making sure that when they're preparing the application, that they have a great plan, that they have programming that meets the needs of the community, and that they've had past experience handling the types of grants and the amount of money that they're looking for. Those, in my opinion, are some of the key things that most grantors are looking for when it comes to community events and marketing initiatives.
Okay, so just maybe to wrap up, so your advice to them would be contact you if you could provide some assistance, and there is more money, as you said, but there isn't another wave coming out mid-season because now we're clearly lifting all the restrictions.
I'm not aware of any mid-season or like a second intake of the existing grants. Most of the grant applications were already due, but absolutely, by all stretch of imagination, for anybody listening and for council members around the table, if you have questions about grants or potential funding opportunities, reach out to our department. We're happy to help.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from any other members of council? I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor? Motion carried. Okay, we're going to go on to Public Works. PW 0132022 New Lowell Fire and Public Works Building, request for proposal results, Appendix A, RJ Burnside, FRP recommendation letter 2022-0404. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive report.
Deputy Mayor, you've missed an item there, Deputy Mayor. You've missed an item.
Oh, the part, I'm sorry, you're correct, I did. Public Works, parking zone, concession 10, north of County Road 124. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive report PW 012-2022, no parking zone, concession 10, north of County Road 124, dated April 11th, 2022, and that a bylaw be presented to council for considering at the April 25th, 2022 meeting to amend Schedule A for parking bylaw 07-36 to designate locations on concession 10 Nottawasaga as no parking zones. Can I have a mover to get the motion on the floor? Councillor McKechnie and Councillor Broderick, any comments or questions? Go ahead, Councillor Walker.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. At one point, we were going to ask to Dan, we were going to ask the if they were going to create parking for the if the company was going to create parking there, not company, the escarpment people were going to create some parking. Did that ever happen, first of all? And secondly, I would like to make a friendly amendment that we increase the west side to be the same as the east side, 175 meters from the corner. I don't feel it's up to us to provide parking for that type of exercise or rock climbing or whatever. And I think the provincial park that was there, they need to open that up because there was parking at some point in there for a fair number of vehicles. So the government needs to get at that and create that, open that up and create the parking there for this type of adventure.
So that was a friendly amendment that was put forward. Councillor McKechnie, do you accept that friendly amendment?
But I'd like some comments from Dan, if you don't mind, see what he thinks about those. I don't think it's a necessary amendment, but I'd like some comments from Dan, please.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Perot.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. So to answer the question with regards to the climbing club involvement, I know that they have had some discussion with the province, or they're attempting to get in front of the province to see if that it's a possibility to get additional parking created at the provincial park. The Bruce Trail Conservancy as well has been in contact with us, and they have shown interest in doing that as well to create additional parking in that area, as well as other areas along the 10th concession and up even as far as up to County Road 91 or former County Road 91. So there are some groups involved in that. I'm not sure how successful they've been as of yet. What I could say about the parking on the side road is my fear would really be that they would just park further up the road. So further north up the road, they would just continue to park, which that area of the 10th is a lot narrower than it is now. So right now they've basically, I created that parking area on the west side. So those cars do get off the road. The problem was the east side of the road where they were parking a narrow shoulder, and it was just too congested in that area. So the thought is to continue to allow them to park where the shoulder is widening, get right off the road on the west side, and limit the parking on the east side. So those are my comments to that.
Okay, does that answer your questions? Yeah, go ahead, Councillor McKechnie.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. So if I understand Councillor Roberts' amendment correctly, I think he was saying that maybe we just move the no parking so that it's further northbound, so that basically it's equal on both sides. Problem is, right now, the way that Dan has it, we have basically staggered parking, because what the issue is that the farm equipment doesn't have enough room to get through when there's cars parked on both sides of the roads. So the way that Dan has it now in the recommendation, it will be staggered so that there will only be cars parked on one side of the road. But if we go through with the amendment as proposed, my understanding would be that we would still have cars parked on both sides of the road, albeit further north, but they would be both parked on both sides of the road, and we would still have the same problem. The farm equipment wouldn't be able to get through. So I don't think we can do that. I like the way it is proposed right now, that Dan's proposed. I think it's low cost and easy to do. As far as putting in separate parking, that's something that maybe if this doesn't work, we could look at that. But I think this is the way to go right now, and I'm happy with the recommendation as such.
So Councillor Walker, Councillor McKechnie has rejected your friendly amendment. Do you want to go ahead and put forth your amendment, or are you satisfied with his comments?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. No, I will withdraw my amendment, my friendly amendment. I would just like to know then that if this passes, that we are going to have bylaw be there and make it work. There's no sense passing this no parking bylaw if we're not going to have it enforced. And I think that's that corner to me is a problem corner right now. So enforcement is very key in that location. And I'm hoping that the signs will have no parking. Vehicles will be towed, not possible, but will be. And I think we have to make that strong because to me, that is a dangerous corner for all involved when they're on both sides of the road.
Madam Clerk, did you want to speak on behalf of the bylaw department?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Burton, through you to the rest of council and Councillor Walker. With any new changes to our parking bylaw, we will ensure that enforcement is done over the next couple months. Also to kind of inform people that we have passed a new bylaw, there are new signs there. But with anything, we have tons and tons of kilometers of roads in the municipality. So enforcement over the next few months will be a little bit higher than usual. But then it'll peter off a little bit more. But definitely if there's target areas and bylaw enforcement is getting phone calls for that area, we will do targeted enforcement. But we also have other areas of the township that we also have to enforce around as well.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councillor Lamers, you had your card up.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. No, Dan explained my answer before I asked it.
Okay, thank you. Councillor McKechnie, I saw your card pop up.
Thank you. And just one more comment to Robert's concern there. Yes, I agree. Obviously, we have to have bylaw enforcement. But I don't know the name of the organization, but the rock climbing organization, let's call it that. They have been proactive. They've got all sorts of literature, and they want to get things out to their members as soon as possible. Matter of fact, the girl, Casey Wilson, I believe is her name. She asked me to get in touch with her as soon as this meeting's over so that she can relay to the membership what the new parking will be. So they seem pretty proactive, and they seem very receptive to it. I mean, obviously there may be some people that come along and park where they shouldn't, but that's going to happen anywhere. But at least the rock climbing organization are fully supportive of this and want to get the word out to their members as quickly as they can. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. We're going to go on to the one that I sort of jumped ahead with. Thank you, Councillor McKechnie, for pointing that out. Appendix to A-RJ Burnside RFP recommendation later 2022-0404. Receive report PW 013 2020 New Lowell Fire and Public Works Building request for proposal results dated April 11th, 2022. And number 2, that in accordance with the township's procurement bylaw and conditions of the request for proposal, council not accept the request for proposal submitted by Core Build Construction Limited for the construction of the new Lowell Fire and Public Works Building based on the proposal coming in at over the approved budget amount. And number 3, the council directs staff to reissue the request for proposal after reviewing parameters of the project and current market conditions. Can I have a mover, please? Mr. Mayor, we're going to let you move this one. You don't get to move too many things. And I'm going to let Ms. Deneen second that. Any comments or questions? I think it's pretty forward. Yes, Councillor Lamers.
Yes. How far back is this going to push it?
Any comments, Mr. CAO or Dan, who's looking after this?
Thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councilor Lamers. We are hoping, and our RJ Burnside, our engineers, are working quite diligently, trying to get this back out sometime in May. So the overages seem on the construction material that that was bid on, or the proposal came in. A few of the changes that may have to happen is we have to shrink the building a little bit, just make it a little shorter than it currently is. So it's just with the trusses the studs and things that were a little bit more costly, and some of the building materials that were spec'd came in quite a bit over budget. So we're going to take another look at it and see if we can just bring the building down to where we're comfortable with, closer to budget or on budget.
Thank you, Mr. Pro. Okay, that answer your question, Councillor Lamers?
Yeah, so the tender's going out right away again.
That's our hope. That's our hope. Yeah, May. Yeah.
Any other questions? Councillor Patterson?
Just an obvious one that probably will hit us later. What does this say about our halt boards? You don't have to answer the question. If this is one bidder at this price, I hope it's okay, let me put it this way, just so we get something out of this. Was this unusual to this case, or is this now typical for tenders this year?
Yeah,
Mr. Bro.
Through Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Patterson. Yeah, we closed, or the request for proposal closed on the Stainer building on Friday, and it was a lot more realistic. Let's put it that way. It was a lot more on budget than this new Lowell one. So I think there's just an anomaly there. I think on the new Lowell building that there was some building materials that were spec'd that just put it out of range. So,
all right, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. Legislative Services recommendation. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Clearview hereby receive report LS 010-2022 hybrid in-person council meetings dated April 11th, 2022, and number 2, that council support moving to hybrid in-person council meetings as described in this report once infrastructure and protective equipment has been installed in the council chambers, tentative April 25th council meeting, and the council support township committees and boards moving to full in-person meetings following township and Simcoe Muskoka Health Unit guidelines, with the option for individual committees and boards to choose if they would like to remain virtual as long as the state of emergency remains. And that council approve utilizing operational funding in the clerk's department 2022 budget conference and seminars for the purchase and installation of protective equipment in the council chambers, referring to plexiglass. Can I have a mover, please? I'm going to say Councillor Walker and Councillor Broderick. Questions? Counselor, your worship.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm not going to try to belay this. I think it's important that the public know that council has every intention to return to in person. But I think it's important to note that the meeting format would be hybrid format, meaning that some members of council, perhaps some members of our staff may not attend in person, may be able to join us by hybrid participation. And that's an important aspect, that we will continue to be available on some type of streaming service. I mean, tonight, Barry, we're delivering by Zoom, but we may be looking at other alternative services that make it available so that we can continue a hybrid format. And so that's something to consider. By the way, I think we are going to stick with Zoom, but the point is that there are others available. And further to that, we have made a little bit of a change in the chambers, and that is that the audio system has now been routed directly into the computer system, so that very clear audio, if you guys remember, it's been so long, to use the little desk mics that were sitting in front of our desk, they will all be connected directly. So very clear audio from each of us from the desk mics will be available on the stream, as well as through the PA system that's in the chamber. So that's a positive thing. I must say, I honestly object to the idea of the plastic plexiglass, given that in the same recommendation that's been presented to us, we're going to allow our hall boards to meet, and we're not putting that restriction on them. So for some reason, the Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit feel that plexiglass needs to be put up in between our members. I don't understand it. I'm not going to, try to debate this or try to create an amendment. I'm just going to voice my opinion that I think it's ridiculous. Nevertheless, I will be supporting the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Are there any other comments? Councillor Patterson.
Thanks. Not to dispute what the mayor just said, but I thought it was a good provision only because on the hall boards and the committees, they're a smaller group. I thought that was an interesting point. They could spread out a little bit more and they didn't have public attendance. But I understand what you're saying. I'm not that fussy about sitting in a space dome, but I do appreciate the fact that you're giving our committees as well, even though we're saying that we prefer in person, that you're giving them the option to decide if necessary that they continue hybrid. So I appreciate that provision as well. I'll support this as a good one. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no more questions, I'm going to call for the vote. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you all. Okay, I'm going to go down to bylaws. Guess what, folks? No bylaws this meeting. That's pretty unusual. Notices of motion. Councillor McKechnie's concession 10 South 718 Side Road solution for drifting snow. You can see he has a notice of motion, which will be brought up at the next meeting. Thank you for that, Councillor. And then also the other motion is. I'm sorry.
Excuse me,
yes,
Your Worship, that's to be discussed tonight. That notice of motion was put forward last meeting, so we will be discussing that motion tonight.
I'm sorry, you're absolutely right. There is another notice of motion. You're right. I'm sorry about that. Whereas the area of concession 10 South 1718 Side Road is prone to blowing snow, resulting in snow drifts. And whereas Devil's Glen Ski Resort has a parking lot and a condominium that are accessed off concession 10 South. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Clearview direct staff to investigate and bring a report back to council outlining possible solutions with costs to reduce the impact of blowing and drifting snow on this section of road. Can I have a mover? I assume Councillor McKechnie is the mover on this. Do you have a seconder, Mr. McKechnie? Do you have a seconder?
Not yet.
Councillor Patterson seconding it. I assume you would like to talk about this, Mr. McKechnie?
Why would you assume that? Anyway, yeah, so basically this came out of the That stormy weekend in February, I wasn't here for it, but apparently there were 12 cars stranded up in that area on that road. Overnight, they were put up in area residence. I think we were probably lucky no one was injured or had hypothermia or anything. It's a similar motion to what I requested as far as parking on the 10th line that we just discussed. So basically, all I'm asking is that staff go up and have a look and bring back possible solutions. And I would prefer low-cost solutions, like it might just be probably 100, 200 meter stretch of a snow fence might suffice. I don't know if that's possible. That staff can let us know. Maybe signs or whatever. I do know that up in that area, there's the entrance there to Devil's Glen. There's 15 condominiums in there. There's, I believe, 1 or 2 detached homes, and there's maintenance buildings in there for Devil's Glen. So anyway, it's just simply asking staff to go and have a look and bring back a report. And you know what? If it's going to be too expensive, or if staff recommend nothing be done, I'm good with that too. But I think that we need to have them go up and have a look and bring back a report. There may be something low cost that can be done. That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? I don't see. So Dan, you'll bring back a report on that at our next meeting. I don't know if it'll be the next meeting, but in the near future. Okay, I'm gonna call for the vote. All in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. Motion carried. Now this is the one that notice of motion from Councillor McKechnie that is going to be debated at the next meeting. Sorry about that, Councillor. Recommendation is where is it? The climate energy. Whereas the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report states that the world has less than 10 years to avert the worst impacts of the climate crisis, and whereas more than 500 municipalities across Canada are acting on climate change, with many of our neighbors, including Collingwood, Town of Blue Mountain, and Wasaga Beach. And I don't think I need to read through the whole motion because it'll be coming up at the next meeting. But that's the notice of motion put forward. Thank you for that, Councillor McKechnie. I'm going to go to 14, bylaw to confirm proceedings of council. Be it reserved that bylaw 20-25 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the April 11th, 2022 council meeting be presented and read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 11th day of April 2022. Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Broderick and Councillor Lamers. Be it all in favor. Motion carried. Motion to adjourn. Can I have a mover, please? And a seconder. Councillor McKechnie, Councillor Lamers, all in favor of the adjournment at 7:09. I have 7:10. Sorry, just click the 7:10. We'll call it at 7:10. All in favor. Motion carried. Good night, everybody. Have a good time.